Thank you, dear Africa, for having me for to presentation, and I'm so overwhelmed to be here again and to share with my own perspective from my own country on the topic understanding the root causes of poverty in Africa and the way forward. I am Donald Vichas, and I'm so overwhelmed to be part of this Rebuild African initiative, which is an African Youth Summit, which has to do with the July edition. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. George Emmanuel from Nigeria for taking out the opportunity to bring in platform like this, wherein all African youths can be able to come together in order to share their own perspective, in order to have that knowledge on different domains in growth and development. And of course, together we can always rebuild Africa by bringing in few the little initiatives that we have as young African leaders in order to make the continent a better one. So thank you so much for being there, and thank you for having me. The introduction of what we shall be having today on the topic understanding the root causes of poverty in Africa in general and Cameroon in particular is like the definition Mr. Emmanuel already said, which has to do with poverty, refers to the state or a condition in which people or communities lack financial resources and, of course, essentials for minimum standards of living. That is the basic tools, like the basic needs of human existence, which has to do with food, has to do with shelter, and of course, clothes. And when you get to understand that, we should be able to equally look at the main focus of our presentation, which is understanding the root causes of poverty. You cannot talk about the root causes of poverty when we don't actually point out key important points that has to do with the root cause of poverty. And for us to be able to trace this root cause, we need to look at systems and structures. We need to look at the geographical location of the Cameroon, the geographical location, and of course the people of Cameroon, and how these various domains or the major causes influences or causes poverty in Cameroon in general, in particular, and Africa in general. Looking at the systems and structures, you discover that ever since the period of the colonial era, a lot of systems being put in place by the French colonial rule that has been taking like the French and the British colonial rule of the British Cameroon, and the French system of education, the system of politics, the supply system, look at the transport system, the health system. They all have a role to play in the poverty, in the rate of poverty that has been influencing the country. So this is the general or the major causes. When we shall be going into detail, you will be able to locate each step in its various system. Each point shall be discussed in one of the systems which has to do with either education, politics, supply system, transport, or health. And of course, the second point is that of the second point that we shall be looking at is the geography, which has to do with the different geographical zones. And normally, we understand that the zones, the areas that people find themselves, like the mountain areas. You cannot compare life of those who live in the mountain areas with those who live in the tropical areas, especially the pygmies of the south, and their villages, their kind of houses. It's difficult. It just shows how the area is, and of course the low valleys with water, swamps, and you, of course, those living in this area already have a challenge when it comes to, the poverty that infects or affects them. Now, the people, which is another major cause of poverty, needs this has to do with the mindset, and of course, with this mindset, a lot of young people graduate from school with the mentality of job seekers instead of creating jobs. So, with this, you discover that according to the World Bank data catalog, in 2021, Cameroon has the population of about 21 million people, and with this 21 million, 27 rather, 27 million people, you discover that there is the need for a lot of opportunities to be created, instead of people thinking that there should be opportunities, like there should be systems where they will fit into those already systems that exist. It becomes a challenge because those already existing systems cannot accommodate everybody, and as a result of this, you discover that it becomes a major challenge. Mindful of the fact that we are looking at the understanding of root causes of poverty in Africa and in Cameroon, where that is my center for of my presentation. I would also like to make this. I will also want to break this down into the knowledge of you understanding the circle of events leading to poverty in Cameroon and the way forward. So it becomes a circle, like the various domains that we made mention of. The systems has become a circle. The geographical area has caused a lot of challenges on people living within those geographical areas to experience a particular growth or a particular breakthrough as a result of their geographical zone. And of course, people with a particular mindset become so challenging. So if the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs had to come out with a projected report which states that about 3.2 million people were projected to face food insecurity by the end of 2023, as estimated by this UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Then it becomes a call for concern for a lot of African countries, or for Cameroonians, to know, for example, that there is the need there is a need in the agricultural sector that has to be done in order to secure, like to have food security, such that the majority of those who are living in poor areas, in broken areas, in challenging areas, will be able to have sustainable food in greater quantity. And looking at the various circles of events leading to poverty in Cameroon, I want to make sure that you are understanding how the presentation is going. We started by looking at the major causes, and we have now going into the minor, or the the minor causes, which has to do with conflicts and instability. Conflict and instability has been caused as a result of the agitation of the kind of systems that has been put in place, as a result of the structures that has been put in place, causing hardships, suffering, instability, and internally displaced person, increase in debt too, especially the youthful population, because the already existing systems cannot accommodate the 27 million people into this system, so it becomes a challenge and conflicts get to break out, as such as the Anglophone crisis that is ongoing, the insecurity in the Lake Chad Basin border to Nigeria, and of course the conflict in Central African Republic has caused a lot of refugees, and those who would have been making sure that they are contributing to the growth of the community productively are wandering around in other areas seeking for safety and of course survival. The circle of events leading to poverty is that of unemployment. Like I earlier said, the systems put in place, the structures put in place, causes a lot of people who are not able to gain the connection that has to do with the system of governance. It limits a lot of youthful population to gain employment, and of course you will bear with me that the labor market in Cameroon is made up of 90% informal. That's the informal sector consists of 90%, which harbors or which employs the labor population, and this has to do with the agricultural sector employing about 62% of the labor force. And it is going to interest you, it will interest you to know that about 15,700 people were laid off their jobs and they became unemployed from the Cameroon Development Corporation that has to do with banana plantation, the palm trees, the rubber plantation. It became a problem as a result of the crisis that broke out in 2016, that is the Anglophone crisis, which was the root cause being the marginalization of the Anglophone minority by the Francophone majority. So this greatly led to the unemployment of 15,700 people laid off their jobs. So you see how it becomes so challenging for this population to be able to gain access to the basic needs that will enable them become part of the community, and of course such as food, such as shelter, and of course clothes. That is why the report, or the report by the UN Office for the Humanitarian Affairs had to come in with that report stating that this population of young people would not be able, or the food insecurity in the country will become a challenge by the end of 2023. Why? Because of this unemployment, inability to access the agricultural sector, and of course producing food that will go a long way to enable growth in the community. And the next point that we are going to look at is lack of quality education due to a lot of, like, the Cameroon, the Anglophone crisis, due to the educational system that has not been able to produce or to provide free education for a lot of Cameroonians, has caused the quality of education to reduce, to drop down, or to not to be able to achieve the right goal. So the level of education in the country and the system being put in place around this education makes it difficult for the common man to be able to acquire the quality education that is necessary in order to be successful. And of course, schools shut down through lockdown as a result of the Anglophone crisis, Northwest, Southwest, and the influx of many students in the Francophone areas of their education. In a classroom, you have more than many population, but that populated classrooms, and at the end of the day, students are unable to gain education the right way. So the United Nations News Agency reported that about 80% of schools were being shut down as a result of the Anglophone crisis in northwest and southwest of Cameroon, leading to high rate of illiteracy. And looking at the next point is lack of farm to market road, which has greatly limited the rural and the semi-urban areas in Cameroon, wherein they have to cultivate their farms, cultivate their products, and they find it difficult in order to have market for these goods. And of course, it also has to do with the transport system as a result of poor road networks, and of course making the farmers in order not to be able to access the right markets with their produce, and of course roadblocks causing damages in their various crops. Other causes of cycles of events that has contributed to poverty in Cameroon and of course Africa in general has to do with young people getting into drug addiction and substance abuse, especially, and the attitude of a lot of people towards money, having money without the right financial education, having the mindset of saving for investments, it becomes a challenge. And of course natural disasters has also contributed to this poor poverty in Cameroon. Natural disasters such as fire accidents, you have a business of your own. There have been a lot of reports on fire outbreaks in markets, in public markets, in businesses, and this has caused a lot of damages and of course poverty in the country. And landslides, floods, remember we talked on the geography of the country, contributing to the poverty as well as bad governance. This equally has to do with the structures being put in place full of corruption, embezzlement, and of course laziness among youth. How to break out of this circle? It becomes so difficult to break out of this circle if you are not able as a young person being so audacious in order to create a difference. And I must thank Mr. Emmanuel so much for bringing in this platform where young Africans from Cameroon, from Nigeria, from Equatorial Guinea, from Chad, from Kenya, from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Liberia, we get to come together as one family in this platform in order to bring in disruptive ideas, in order to see that together we can rebuild Africa, and that is where the initiative comes in. So we need to bring in initiatives and of course ideas on ways to be able to contribute to the growth and the development of our continent. So one of the first point that we are going to look at is for local farmers, they should be able to come together and form corporations that can help them benefit from the state allocated budget that is always allocated at the end of the year for agriculture, for farming. So farmers should be able to come together with a strong corporation and of course having a board of directors that can work towards that. And of course local processing centers should be created. As the Ukraine war broke out, there was the shortage of flour in the market, and a lot of research was being made, and it discovered that cassava can be used in order to process flour, and a lot of countries, a lot of villages, a lot of towns in Cameroon do produce cassava, but the challenge becomes at the level of processing these products in order to have the flour that can be able to go along in order to have this in the market. So if local processing centers can be created, then jobs will be created, opportunities will be created, then there will be a lot of wealth creating activities in the country. So the third point is education should highly be regarded. There is no way we can ever become we can break out of this circle without acquiring the necessary education, the necessary skills, the necessary experience, the necessary knowledge in the domains that we want to create a change. Is it in the educational sector? Is it in the health sector? Is it in the supply chain? All these systems, they need to be experience a new touch of, and that can only be achieved through education. And why not? The fourth point is states should be able to fund startup businesses, and of course reducing high tax rates on small and medium-sized enterprises, thereby helping young startups to be able to gain the market without necessarily being kicked out of the market in the next 3 4 years 5 years, and as a result of high taxes, they cannot be sustainable in the market. Now, the fifth point is youth-led organizations should be encouraged and supported by the state on civilian protection and the right to security. And of course, in times of crisis, this will go a long way to protect our own in such a way that our properties, our educational system, our lives and properties can be protected as a result of the youth-led organization that can be able to channel the petitions of the common man in a right way. And of course, technology cannot be cut off from this poverty circle to be like you for you to be able to come out from this poverty circle. Technology should be one of the tools that should be encouraged. And of course, volunteering into organizations. Young people should learn how to take on volunteering. A lot of young people complain out there that there are no jobs, and of course, if you are able to, instead applying for jobs, you apply for volunteering, before you know it, you keep on climbing a career ladder without you knowing. And of course, when it comes to elections, young people should be able to vote the right people and not be voted because of the likeness or the tribalistic or the likeness of a particular person in power. So they should be taken in place, and if this is implemented, I believe that this cycle will be broken. Conclusively, those who have become aware of this circle, they have actually helped or done a lot of things. They have actually put in the right work, put in the right energy by actually breaking out and making a difference, a change, by impacting people, by creating opportunities as well as wealth creation and riches in the lives of those who are in the country, and of course creating more job opportunities, creating more opportunities. And of course, Rebuild African initiative is one of that platform that goes a long way to create that opportunity for young people to be delivered from the mental slavery, to be delivered from the mindset of job seekers, and not only being job seekers but be able to gain skills, acquire skills in various domains that can be able to go a long way to disrupt the old systems that have been put in place. And of course, you too can do this, and if you desire to create that difference, it starts with me, it starts with you. And of course, together in this youth summit, we will be able to make Africa great again. And of course, thank you so much for Rebuild Africa initiative. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, for giving me the opportunity for me to share my own perspective on understanding the root causes of poverty in Cameroon in particular, in Africa in general, and of course the world. And that is how we saw in our own presentation for today in the African Youth Summit, which is the July edition 2023. I am Donald Vichas from Cameroon, your productivity strategist. Thank you so much for following the presentation. I would like to receive your comments, your questions, and your contributions as we gradually follow in the comment section below. Thank you once more, for together we can make Africa great again. Why? Because you are just unlimited.